What's up, everyone? Today we have a different video for you. I am interviewing the composer for the wonderful co-op game Ship of Fools that came out a few weeks ago. It goes through everything you would probably want to know about the actual soundtrack to the game. The composer, his name is Philippe Grant. You can find him on Spotify. And maybe eventually on Twitter as well. So I hope you enjoyed the music as much as I did and the game itself. Without further ado, take a look at our interview with Philippe. It certainly did, to put it mildly. I've honestly spent more time. Thank you for putting the music up on Spotify as well.
Yeah.
You don't see that all that often with games necessarily, especially more indie productions like Ship of Fools. So that's really cool to see. How long have you been working on the music for the game? When did this all start?
It started about, I'd say, 3 years ago when the early development was going on. I had to actually compose the first track of Ship of Fools, which was the main theme, because we had to pitch a trailer for to get funds for the game at the very beginning of the project. So so that came pretty early, and I sat with the devs and we kind of talked about the game, talked about the concept, and we came up with the main theme, which I use a lot throughout the soundtrack. As you may have noticed, it's a lot. It's the same melody, just rearranged and just hinted away in some tracks.
Seeing it kind of weave in and out of the different tracks and kind of pop up on a different instrument here and there.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, I recognize that.
Yes.
all kind of comes together. So is this your first time kind of composing or creating music for a video game, or has this been something you've worked on throughout your career?
It's my first video game soundtrack. So this is I've been working on mostly linear media before. So I've done a documentary, I've done a kids show, and a lot of radio jingles in Quebec, so you can hear some really pop stuff, and it's really different, but I think the video game is my favorite media, and I've been a huge gamer all my life, and making a soundtrack for a video game has been a dream for me since I was a little kid, since I listened to Grant Kirkhope and David Wise and the guys on Nintendo 64 at Rare, and these legends. So it's been a dream for me to compose a soundtrack for a game, and it happened. So it's my first time.
I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it now, but there are a couple tracks where it sounds like it's an N64 Rare. There's some influence there. Maybe it's the instruments, and
there are there are certainly some influences. I wish I could make it sound like retro N64, but my sound banks are all too clean for that. So.
No, that you still hear it though. Like it's still big,
oh, thank you. I'm glad you say that.
And I honestly didn't even think about it till now, but I had there's one of the characters in the game. It's the she stirs the soup. I forget her name. Yes, and her
that's Gruntilda, right?
Yes, it's 100%. Like 2 seconds into it, I'm like, I got that right away.
I actually did the voices, and and Banjo-Kazooie was obviously a huge reference, and when I came up with Alga, I was like, I gotta pay respects to Gruntilda at some point in this game. So it's a bit of a nod. I hope the folks at Rare and Sir Kirkhope don't mind. But
influenced you in making the game's music?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Genshin Impact recently, and so Yu Peng Chen is a huge influence for me. I think there's a couple of tracks that I can like trace back to a specific track in Genshin Impact. Like for example, I'd say the World 2 bus was, I think, the theme from Dvalin, the Mondstadt bus in Genshin Impact. You can look it up if you want later.
Sure.
And also, I think there was another one, but I can't quite remember. I think it's The Eye of the Storm Part 1 or 2. I think it's Part 1 was influenced by it's the big turtle bus. What's his name? It's like Azdaha. It's Azdaha. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of, I've been picking some stuff left and right from other songs that I love and I enjoy. I've also stolen a bit from Mozart. What was it? It's the
there's like a march song.
Yeah, there is.
You get the piano or keyboard in there.
Yes. There's a bit of a John Williams reference also in The Eye of the Storm. The Eye of the Storm specifically is like a huge, it's a chaotic bus. So I was like, let's just pick some stuff left and right from composers I like, and let's just throw that in there, and it's gonna be a melting pot of chaos. So so there's a lot of influences there. You may spot some.
Obviously, for not sure whoever will be watching this, if they've played Ship of Fools, but essentially you'll sail as long as you can through 4 different environments or biomes, whatever you want to call it. Did that influence how you were making music, knowing there would be 4 different kind of environments to kind of play through?
Right, yeah, it did. Well, from the start, I talked with the devs, and it was clear that from the start we wanted to have something like a big song that plays from the start of a level to the end. So and I knew that I was the one who was gonna integrate it into the game with we work with Wise, which is an audio platform. And so from the very start I was like, so how can I make the compositions sound in a way that can transition seamlessly from any part of the song to another, and have this kind of big song that never stops from the start of the level to the end. So that was kind of the main direction for it. I took some liberties to deviate from that a little bit, so as we realized quick enough that you need some calm and you need some silence. Sometimes you can't just be like music all the way throughout. So so when you arrive at an island, it gets a little bit quieter and a bit more underscore, but the main gameplay loop, which is combat and calm preparation for the next phase, it's essentially just the same song, but you just alternate between these 2 versions. One is underscore and the other one is a bit more intense. And I designed some transitions to go to high to low so that it sounds good. And actually the high to low is pretty simple because it's just a fade and a little accent to say, hey, you're done. But from low to high, I know I've made some transitions, like percussive stuff to transition to the next section, and that layers with the rest, and I think it works well. It's pretty cool. I wanted to try to have that seamless feeling, and it was certainly a test, an experiment.
I'm sure. I like how all those different elements kind of build up, because that's how the game plays. You're kind of building up towards the boss at the end, or you're building up your ship, upgrading things to kind of get to the end. So the music definitely fits that perfectly. And even if you're just, I probably spent more time listening to the music than playing the game. When I put it on Spotify in my car on my drive to work, just listening to it build up, it's always very fun.
Thank you. It's nice to imagine someone listening to my music. It's really weird because it doesn't happen usually. So it's funny. It's appreciate it.
One of my favorite songs. I don't want to butcher the name here, but the song in The Tyrant of the Deep. That's the boss of the second zone, right? I think it's the second boss. And that's usually the song I'll play in my car right before going to work.
Nice. It hypes you up.
Yeah, it kind of wakes me up a little bit, right?
Nice.
And kind of gets me excited for the day. That's if I had to pick, that's probably the song I've played the most, just standalone.
Right.
So I kind of like how it builds, and then you throw in a little brass at the end that kind of is that triumphant moment. One of the influences throughout is all the seafaring themes and instruments. Was that kind of fun to work with?
Yeah, it was. It was fun to actually find the actual instruments in like banks and stuff. I challenged myself to try to make it to compose in the box as much as possible. So that was a limitation, but it was also a fun challenge, and it was also a budget constraint, obviously. But yeah, it was fun. I think I found a VST that's called Old German Concertina. I don't know from where I found it, but yeah, that was certainly the main gist of the sea shanty themes was played on the German Concertina, and then it was just playing with that melody and trying to fit it with different instruments. I've certainly learned a lot by creating this soundtrack. Just arranging and orchestrating and stuff. And I know there's a lot more that I need to learn. But yeah, it was a journey. I really appreciated that journey of composing.
And it sounds like you had the freedom to kind of do what you want.
Yeah, really. The guys, the devs are really, really good friends, and they trust me a lot with every musical decision. So that was really fun, and I think we wouldn't have done, The Eye of the Storm with a huge metal song if the devs weren't so open-minded.
Yeah. It's funny if you're playing the game, it feels perfectly, but if you're listening to just the soundtrack, it does kind of come out. It
does. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah. That's fun. Keeps it interesting for sure.
I think so, yeah.
How did linking up with for those that don't know, there's a launch trailer song that it goes with a musical group called the Longest Johns, and they're kind of known for singing sea shanties. How did that relationship come about, or how? I never even heard of the Longest Johns until playing this game and then having to look them up retroactively and everything.
It was really fun. I was the one who suggested the Longest Johns because I knew them from. They do. Actually did it this year too, but last year they did the Jingle Jam with the Yogscast in the UK. So it's like a charity fundraiser, and they spent an evening just singing songs on Twitch, and it's really fun to watch them. And I was like, oh, we need a sea shanty band. Well, how about the Longest Johns? And I had one of the devs write to them. They replied. They were like, yeah, sure, we would love to sing. Okay. And we wrote some draft lyrics. We sent them, and they sent something back, and then there was some back and forth, and we kind of co-wrote the lyrics on top of the melody of Ship of Fools. Okay. And so it was a really nice collaboration, to be honest. I didn't get to speak to them and talk to them a lot, but I'm sure they enjoyed their time singing the melody. It was it was kind of fun too, because the melody is kind of jam packed. There's not a lot of room to breathe, and when you're playing on the piano, you don't really realize it, but when you get some singers to sing it, it's like, oh, okay, there's not much room to breathe here. So there's a lot of words, and I'm sure they had to do a lot of takes to just nail every block. But it worked out in the end. So I had to write, and I was super sorry with them, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, there's not much room to breathe. So because
most of I kind of went down a rabbit hole the last week or so looking at some of their stuff over. And they've been together for a long time. It seems most of it is a cappella. So yeah, it's probably tough to mesh.
Yeah, it is, and it's not. The melody of Ship of Fools is not a traditional sea shanty by any means, so it's a bit special. It's a bit different than what they probably do usually, but I think they liked it, and I certainly would like to see them live one day too.
With danger approaching, they try and they try. The aquapocalypse ever raging topside, while relics of sirens.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit. What was kind of your how'd you get into music in the first place? Like, thinking back, like, going back years. But.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Let's go from the beginning. I started when I was really young. I think I was like 5 or 6 when I started piano. Then I took classes from like, I don't know, 7 years old.
Okay.
And I've took piano classes most of my life. Then I went to college. And I was studying classical piano back then.
Okay.
And when I got into college, we had 2 instruments. So we had like main instrument and secondary instrument. So I had classical piano and jazz piano for secondary. And when my second year of college came, I switched these. So I just took jazz piano as my first instrument, and I continued then in university. So I studied under Rafael Zaldivar, who is a great Cuban jazz pianist. He's really amazing. So my formation is just jazz interpretation, and I've been composing on the side all my life because I really love creating and composing in general. So I didn't study formal composition, but I've always been composing, so I guess that kind of works.
That's comes about. That's the nature of the word. If you think about it, right?
And in jazz, you always there's a lot of focus on improvisation, so it kind of translates well into composition afterwards. So, I think that was a good. I think the main reason why I'm composing right now is because I studied jazz. And that's pretty much it.
Is there anything else notable kind of about the project that you wanted to mention? Maybe what would you say would be like the biggest, what was like maybe the most fun thing about it, and maybe the biggest challenge you had during the process?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know.
Putting you on the spot, I know, but
no, it's fine. It's all good. I'm looking at the Spotify album on my other screen, and I'm like, what was the big challenge? It's hard to say, really, because I think the staff credits was kind of a bit of a challenge, because we wanted to like cram all the songs in one big song. So it kind of doesn't make sense musically, to have a lot of melodies. Like part 1 is one melody, part 2 is one melody, and there's no repetition, so you kind of assume that the players have heard these melodies before. But if like you open the soundtrack and the first thing you listen to is the staff credits, you're like, that's certainly a lot of notes.
Yes, yeah. No, so, I think it slides in perfectly as a credits.
It does. It kind of does, but it was a big challenge to fit all of this together. And I don't know if you've heard. If you've caught the reference, it was a bit of a nod to Link's Awakening, the remaster version on Switch. So the staff credits of this game is absolutely amazing, and I wanted to try to bring down a bit the orchestration of Ship of Fools to something that sounded more like a quartet, but then I expanded on it as usual because I just like layering stuff. But if you listen to the Link's Awakening soundtrack, you might recognize some stuff from there. Also, probably the Tall Tall Heights song that's from the same game. There's a bit of borrowing. Let's just say it like that. But that was a big challenge. And what was the part of your question?
Challenge, and maybe what was your favorite thing?
My favorite thing. I think my favorite thing was collaborating with my friend Gabriel on the Eye of the Storm.
Okay. Yeah.
He's literally the best guitarist I know, and he's really amazing. He won Guitarist of the Year in the UK back in like 2018 or 2019. He's really amazing. This guy is off the charts, really. So I think that was my favorite part, just having to write some parts for him, and just receiving these parts afterwards and fitting them in the project was like, oh my god, this song just comes to life instantly just with his 6 tracks. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. You're able to get them involved, and it does certainly fit both the soundtrack itself and that moment in the game. That moment was pretty strong. Well, the first time you're playing through, you get there, you only get to hear maybe 15 seconds of the song because your ship is done.
You're
like, we'll get back here, but it's
your build is just too good, and you just hear 15 seconds because you just one shot the boss.
That happens.
One or the other.
Yes, So it is when you put it like that, it is nice to kind of, because it is a chaotic game at times, right? And the music fits perfectly, but it can sometimes, when you're playing the game, you can only focus on so many stimulating things at a time.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of stuff happening. Yeah.
So it is nice to be able to kind of set the music aside and kind of listen to it, and then say, oh, that fits. I know exactly. I've played it a lot now, but when I'm just listening to the music, I kind of know exactly what part of the game I am. So that's what I see in my head when I'm listening to it.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's just from repetition, I guess. But
repetition legitimizes. That's the wise words of Adam Neely.
Yes.
There's a fun little fact about the soundtrack. Actually, when they first developed the game, at the very beginning, the World 1 and the World 2 were reversed. So the first world was supposed to be I don't know if I can say that, but all right. So the first world was supposed to be the open sea, and the second world was supposed to be the swamp.
The murky,
the murky waters. But I think that because of game balance and they designed the way they designed the monsters, they found out that maybe the swamp enemies are a little bit easier than the open sea, so they kind of switched it around. And actually, when I wrote the soundtrack, I was planning on having each level have a key and descending 1/2 step for every level, so you just go down and down and down until you reach hell. But that kind of messed things around because that was a stairway, and then they just switched it, so the concept was ruined from the very beginning.
That's a clever concept, though. Like, at least that's
it was. I was kind of happy, but then kind of sad because it didn't happen.
Well, you can always move things.
That's it. But so that was my fun little fact about the music.
That actually kind of makes sense, because I saw they tweeted something about there's the enemies. I don't know what they're called, but maybe they're called puffies, the ones that explode.
Yes,
when they get too close to the ship.
Exactly.
And then they did post on Twitter the other day, like whatever that meme is, where they have the guy shadowed out, and he's like, "This is my enemy."
Oh, right.
Nothing's. I'm butchering that, but it's nothing scarier. And then there's a picture of one of the puff fishes. Maybe during like the play testing and stuff, that got, we gotta push these guys back a little bit.
We're kind of hard.
So we're not washing up ashore too quickly.
Yep. The puffies were they're like the creepers of Ship of Fools. It's kind of they're really scary, and you don't want them ruining the playthrough of everyone on the first level. So that was probably the smart move.
Find myself repeating some of my favorites, but it's been nice. I've been able to sit down maybe a couple times and listen all the way from the start to the end. Even with that, there's the bonus song, the Sea of Ours, that I guess isn't. I assume it isn't in the game, just on the soundtrack.
It's not in the game, actually. This song was, and I haven't told this to anyone, but that was the original calm version of the second level.
Okay.
It was one of the very first tracks that I composed for the game, and we thought that it was a bit too happy and not, it really pulled you out of the action when you arrived at this track after a comeback.
Okay.
So we kind of scrapped it, but I was like, oh, this actually kind of sounds like a bit of a victory track. Like things got better when you listen to it. So I was like, maybe we can fit it on the soundtrack at the end, and it's kind of it's the bonus track. You did it. You got it.
No, it fits. I found myself. That's probably I'm not sure what my breakdown would be if Spotify would tell me, but it's probably up there. Probably like maybe the top 5 songs I've listened to.
Nice.
On repeat. So it's kind of fits right in, I think, with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Even if it didn't actually make it.
Yeah, it might make it in the future. I don't know if we add more content or anything. Maybe it will, slither its way, and who knows?
Nice. That's exciting. Anything's exciting. Yeah. So you definitely got to thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. Is there anything else you want to add or talk about before wrapping up here?
I don't have much, actually. I guess for anyone who makes music out there, just make as much music as you can and enjoy making music and enjoy listening to music. I don't know. I wish I wish I could have. I wish I could meet Grant Kirkhope one day, and I know there's, maybe there's people that will want to meet me one day, like I want to meet Grant Kirkhope or David Wise or Koji Kondo or anyone, and just make music and go for your dreams, and that's it.
That's all. That's great advice. I know. Yeah, I mentioned like, hey, there are so many people out there that would love to get involved with a project like this, and maybe don't really quite know the steps, but I think that's great advice. Keep making music.
Just make it, and just love what you do and love music, and it's all gonna fall into place sometime.